Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another great conversation with Tomaz Mueller, who I have back on my channel today. And before we start, I would like to ask you to join my mailing list, which is down below. You have my Instagram account as well. On my website, you can contact me or you can purchase my books. And there is a Patreon if you are feeling willing, your heart tells you to support me, you can do it as well. Nevertheless, welcome back, Tomaz. So happy to connect with you again.
Hi, Anya. Thank you so much. Amazing to be back. And I must say, this color looks very regal on you in a way. It is like
Thank you.
very grounded, very autumn, earthy kind of color. I like it. I really like it.
Thank you. This is special outfit for today, actually, for conversation with Tomaz. Like I said to Tomaz, even the brooch from Warsaw made of amber, because today, everyone, we're gonna jump into very, very interesting things. And the first thing is this: as many of you know, not long time ago, I have been experiencing something very, very challenging for me, very uncomfortable, and something I could not compare to anything else I ever experienced. I wouldn't call it disease. I don't know if it was sickness, but that was a very low energy, no appetite, no fever. However, very uncomfortable, almost like form of death in a way. I was experiencing this, and Tomaz has reached out to me, which I so appreciate, and he offered me, with my permission, if I want to do some healing work on me. Now, many of you don't know, Tomaz knows, we spoke about it prior recording, that I am very skeptical and very protective now to accept any kind of healing from anyone, because I came to the point when I trust my higher self and creator so much that I don't really want another energy to interfere with my own sacred space. And yeah. However, I felt that Tomaz had such a pure intention in that offer, so I accepted this offer. And let me ask now Tomaz this question, because Tomaz did a work which I think took 2 days, but I would like to ask you first, Tomaz, what have you really done? Because I didn't feel like right away enormous relief. However, I felt, especially the second day, I felt the shift. What have you really done on me? What was it?
Okay, so first of all, the way I approach healing is very much by supporting you as an entire being to raise your frequencies. So I go in without any preconceived ideas. I make sure that I cleanse my energy first, and I always do it under the pyramid. And in your case, I did do a sacred mapacho ceremony, like a tobacco ceremony for myself before I actually worked with you, which basically means to clear my energy field, to stay grounded and to be guided rather than being guided from my mind perspective, being guided by my higher self, to link together with your higher self at that particular moment in time. So the initial thing I did was just sitting in the presence of my energy field, linking with my higher self, and just bringing in light, bringing in the frequency, which is called by David the Reader of the Holy of Holies, which is basically the light of Christ, and allowing that energy to come through. And as we all know, whenever the light comes in, the shadow disappears. So basically, the shadow comes to surface, and it gives it is provided a channel to release. And this is what happens. And initially, I was just asking, is there anything I need to do? And there was nothing. It was just sitting in it and being just a conduit for the light energy to come through your light body back into your body, into your physical body. So we are talking about the 3D physical body, and then we talk about the subtler 5D and higher dimensional bodies of our existence. So that was the first step that I did. And then I felt the energy of your ancestors coming in. So again, at that time, I'm very clear of giving permission only for those energies to come in that support your health, you support your well-being. So I clearly made a declaration of not allowing any artificial intelligence that doesn't serve the higher purpose to come in. So at that moment, and please forgive me, because when I do those healings, I have an idea afterwards, but then it disappears. So from what I remember, and I hope you don't mind me sharing that.
No, exactly, Thomas, please do. Because I want to ask you, yes, I want to ask you, how did you communicate with my ancestors? And what have you, I'm fully want to share this with audience because it might help people too.
Okay. It was basically linking into your ancestral male energy on your father's side, if I'm correct. That was correct, right?
Yes.
So, and it felt, what it does is, it first comes through as an energy which has a physical sensation. So I felt a constriction in the heart. I felt the difficulties to breathe and this immense heaviness that actually was coming in. And then I just ask, what is it that we, in a sense, your higher self, my higher self, need to know at that time? Yeah. And that's when the way it came through, as not so much as an image, but it was audible. For me, I could hear it and I felt it. So the hearing and the feeling was of the ancestors asking for forgiveness, asking for for your forgiveness. And then I was asking, but what is it around? So basically it was around your own personal journey at the time. And what this very often does, Anya, is ancestors, the way I see it, and please, there must be 1,000 versions of how people work. I can only share of how I work. And I always believe there's no right and wrong in this whole process. So the way I perceived it, the way it came through was, when we tap into ancestral energies, and this I can confirm from my own personal experience going back into my own family, they always have got certain plans with us, certain ideas with us, and especially the light beings within an ancestral lineage. And because we have chosen to step out of the matrix, even though many of those ancestral energies that are linked to us, there are now in a different spiritual realm, but there are levels, as we know. Some of them are more on the denser levels and some of them are more on the higher levels. And they have their own agenda to carry some of the memories through our ancestors. And when we step out of that matrix, when we decide no more, when we decide I am a being that stands in my own power and I release myself from those patterns, that is shaking, that can shake them at times. And this is what happened in your case, because they felt a level of neglect, because they came from an ego energy, you know, the way I see it, from a denser, don't call it ego energy, because ego is just so tainted, from a more denser energy. And by us practicing being humble in that process, but at the same time firm, it will help them to move on and grow. So that's why when you ask me afterwards and I sent you the voice message, that's what I shared with you. Now, the tricky bit is that we have missed in that conversation is because I didn't speak to you in person. And I respected that you needed your own space at the time. Because if I would have spoken in person, probably could have asked me questions which have helped maybe for you to ease the emotion that was attached to that message that you got at that particular moment in time.
Tomaz, I have to say, what really was very interesting in that process, when I was going through it, I was so weak that pretty much I slept throughout all day. And when I was I didn't want to drink. I didn't even want to drink. I could not eat. I was tasting poison in food, literally. But what happened is this: when you contacted me after the first session and then the second time, I remember, and I left you this, and I never left you a message like this. I got really angry. I got really, like, literally, I will say it, like, pissed off, because what you are now describing, I totally, it resonates with me, because I am aware that if certain ancestors, like, we are almost important for them as a point of reference, or they define themselves in a way through us. So if we are going on our own journey and we are evolving spiritually and energetically, in a way they are losing, like, their own identity, if this makes sense. That's how I see it now. And I think that was very much so connected to my grandfather, my father's father, who moved entire family when the Second World War has ended to the west side of Poland, which Poland has gained after Second World War. And you know this because you're European, so you know. So Germany lost that part, and they moved into this town, German town called Stettin, which is Szczecin. And there is this whole energy there lingering less and less. But when you did that work, and I remember the second day, I was like, I got so upset. I was so, but that was actually good. It was like coming out of my system. Yes. So, yes. So now, when I was experiencing any of it, could you also feel the shifts, or how was that for you?
I could definitely feel the shifts as the process went on. I could feel it was easing off, but initially there was quite a bit of resistance. And that's why I said I will go back in after I had your first feedback. And it was only in the second session that I could feel it had released drastically.
Yes. Okay. So now I have a question that just arose from this. And I've seen several of my past lives and who I was then, or still am, on a different timeline, right?
Yes.
So now that particular experience I had was also, before we get there, was also connected, which we both agree with, that this current land where I am right now has served its purpose. And I want to,
the other thing, yes, that's, I forgot about. Yes.
I want to say this because I know I receive sometimes comments from people who also feel that they are ready to migrate to completely different areas. So can you touch on this, Tomaz, and explain that?
Yes, I think, and I have to just really tap into my memory there, it came up, and I mentioned it already in the first conversation, but I didn't really pay attention to it. So it wasn't really something that was very prevalent. It was only after your first message, and when I did the second session with you or with your higher self, that I realized the importance of you to go and close that chapter. It was like the importance of making peace with it, because when we get to a point where we know the old does no longer serve us, we are experiencing initially a lot of resistance, frustration, anger, not wanting to be there. And then once we take that energy, we transform it, that's when the doors will open and we are actually able to move. So that's when I suggested to you to make peace with the fact of where you are right now. Thank nature, thank the land for all the learnings and the challenges and the journey that you have had throughout the years that you spent where you are currently still are. And then that will shift and it will help you move out of that matrix into a new area that is much more conducive to your being.
Because you also have moved a lot throughout your life, from country to country, as I know. And so your point of feeling that readiness, you were always able to recognize it, right?
Yes, there were times where I resisted it, and I really resisted it. And I didn't want to accept it because there was Australia in between. And I realized later it was a past life connection to Australia. And I was just hanging on to that memory of a past life, which I then sort of later on realized it was just a memory of me, that I haven't completed something within the country of Australia, but it was more going back to another timeline, to another incarnation. And it had to do with my work that I did with the indigenous people, or that the fragment of myself did at the time within the Aborigine community that was not complete. And I lost my life in that battle, basically. So I felt there was something not complete, and I hang on to that. And I didn't want to leave, but I knew I had to leave. And that has caused a lot of friction on my path moving forward, until many, many years later, I had the vision where I understood why I reacted the way I reacted the time I left. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it does. It absolutely does. And so this takes me back to what I wanted to ask you, because this is actually great segue into it. So when I saw my past lives, and one of those most impactful on me, that actually I'm going to write a book about that life, was in Middle Age in Normandy in France. And now I wonder, what really is the ancestry? Because now I feel that who I was then, that is like my ancestry as well. And there are different connections with different lineage of family tree, right? And there is another lifetime, and there is another lifetime. And then we have the current one, which you were healing my energy from that relationship patterns. So how you look at this, Tomaz, now when we say ancestry, because this doesn't necessarily has to be from the current lifetime, right?
No, absolutely not. It's a fragment of our being that is linked to those energies that carried us throughout our cycles of birth and death and birth and death. And that is like, for example, okay, let me try to find an example. Okay, I had a very close connection to my grandmother, and I know that my grandmother is here all the time. She's always on my left side. I can feel her. She's always there. But I also know that this grandmother has had another incarnation. She came back as one of what I believe as one of my nieces. So I tried to understand, how does that work? What is that link? But then the way I understand it is, the grandmother I knew at the time is how I can connect to her, which is a fragment of my energy being, a fragment of my ancestral being. And the grandmother that is incarnated, let's say, in my niece right now, at this point in time, is a different energy, which I can relate to it in a completely different way. So when I think about my grandmother, even though the grandmother will very likely have moved on already, have found a new body, started her journey again, but my link is to that memory of my grandmother when it was during the time when she was alive in my lifetime at this point in time. So that's the memory of our ancestors that we carry. So it could be the same, the same fractal of energy, but expressed in a magnitude of forms. It could be your father, it could be your great-grandfather, it could be this or it could be that. But it can be also linked to that particular lineage that you can still relate to in this lifetime.
Yes, this is incredible. It's like a tree almost.
Yes.
It's like a tree and so many branches. It's actually how Creator created us, and we keep on creating ourselves.
Exactly. We create ourselves in a different form, and it is only the perception that we carry, the memories that we carry from our lifetimes. Let's say during your time in the Middle Ages in Normandy, you had a particular physical body, and that body was linked to a particular energy. Now you carry that energy, which is not necessarily the person that you were at that time. So that person as such has gone through a process of evolving, but when you tap into that timeline of the Normandy at that time, you are able to connect to the fractal of that energy that makes your own, the essence of your being right now.
Yes,
in this
and the land, Tomaz, the land still also. So now in this lifetime, as I went back to Le Mont Saint-Michel and I stepped on that bricked road and went to the Abbey, when I stood at the front of the Abbey, I started to cry just by itself. And I was like, this was my home, okay? This island was my home. So the energy is still in the lands that I felt like I actually knew. I knew it was calling me to go there. And I went on this vagabond trip. But I want to ask you, for you, do you still have this, like the land, the area, certain area in the world is calling you?
Yeah.
Do you have it? Okay.
Absolutely, 100% true. And I still feel a very, very strong connection to Australia. And I don't know, it might be that it will come back in this lifetime. Maybe I will go back because I spent a lot of time that side of the world. I spent 11 years in New Zealand and the years in Australia. So that side of the world. And each time I will go to India. For me, India is like my second home. When I first touched down ground on India, I felt like I'm coming home. And that is still absolutely still there. But strangely enough, even though I was born in Germany, I truly feel that chapter is closed. It's like I've done my bit. It sounds quite weird. Yeah. So does that answer your question?
But yes, but for example, in Europe, do you have any areas that they're like lingering? They're like
Italy.
Kind of, Italy. Okay, that's
Italy.
interesting.
It's the north of Italy and the south of Italy that I keep being called to. And when you mentioned Normandy, I had a vision many years ago about the essence, one fractal of my being that lived during the Middle Ages in the Normandy. And I had a very clear vision of what happened. So it was, my family fled from the UK because there was war going on. So it was me, like incarnated in the female body, my brother, and then my parents. We fled from the UK to France. On the way to France, to the Normandy, my mom and my brother got killed. And then I was left alone with my father in a particular place in France. And at that time, I was, that element of myself was working with water, with holy water. So basically, there was a well in the village and people came, they drank the water, and that girl gave the water to the people and it helped healing them. But now the thing is, I got burned alive at stake because of that. And also there was abuse that happened to that girl from the priest within the village and my father, because they made a deal. My father at the time made a deal with the priest, basically declaring me for insane, or that little girl at the time I was 15 years old, when I experienced it. So it is very complex. Wow. And then it was only when I did my journeys in Peru last time, which was before 2020. So I asked specifically, I want to clear this lineage, and I want to clear the guilt that I carry with my father and everything that came with it. And that took me back to Stone Age time, very systematically, lifetime after lifetime, where I was in a cave. I'm just going to share this briefly and then I will stop, but I think it might help. I was in a cave and I held a baby in my arms, and it was a tribal atmosphere. So it was evening, we had dinner, and I took the baby and I remember putting the baby to bed. But then what happened is, for some reason, the cauldron with hot water tipped, and basically the baby died because of being burned with the hot water. And throughout lifetimes, this is what I'm getting to now, lifetimes after lifetimes, I carried the guilt because that baby was my father in this lifetime. I carried the guilt of feeling I need to please him. I'm so sorry for him. I need to do what he asked me for me to do. So when I realized what truly happened at that night in the cave, it was an earthquake. The earth started to shake. A big piece of rock fell from the ceiling onto the cauldron with water. It tipped the water and the baby died because of that. But I thought I killed that baby. So throughout these lifetimes, I carried that guilt. And the incarnation of my father came back in various shapes and forms. You know that anyway. So it's not always the same personality.
Tomaz, thank you. Yeah, but thank you so much for sharing this. You know, I think this is so important that you said those things, because we might not even realize, like I've done ayahuasca, so I am aware how the event that happens, how we give the meaning to it. Yes. So this is exactly, the event happened, you gave the meaning to it, and lifetime after lifetime represented in different form of coloration and relationship, you were still working on the same unresolved emotion.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Incredible.
And then there's another element. So when we did the ancestral work with you, like with any work that happens, when that lifts, the body is left with an emptiness. The body is left with a space, and that space then needs to be filled with love, with light, with pure energy. And that's why a few days after, we may feel a little bit wobbly, because now all this stress is gone the weight has lifted off our shoulders, and then our self goes, now what? What's happening now? I can't identify myself anymore with the trauma or with that memory or with that pattern. So what am I going to do? So that's why it is so important afterwards to really take it slowly, to nurture yourself, to meditate, to visualize having the light coming in, to really fill that space. Because if you don't fill the space, next time something else will come in, and then we start the whole process again.
And you said exactly what happened to me. Everything you just described, because the enormous relief, it was like I came out of certain old outfit in a way. And then, because I'm in the process of packing and moving soon, I also felt, well, let me just say two things. First, going through that experience, all of my senses, and I mean all of my senses, were super duper active, to the point when I was taking the cell phone, and I couldn't even take cell phone much into my hands. But when I was doing that occasionally, and I was going on YouTube, I could literally recognize the energy of some people I knew, some people I don't, whatever was the channel like recommended, right? And I was like, I can't. I was like I was seeing through everything, to the point that it was making me frustrated because it was too much disturbance to my energy. So that's one thing. So when this whole experience has ended, I remember what really came to me was this very calm but very mature approach, that I'm not giving any dates, I'm not giving any directions, I'm just going where I'm going right now, and I will go with the flow. Where is the next step? Because I used to be such a planner with everything, you know, gonna live there, gonna do this, and now I'm like, when I will be called, the universe will show me the way, God will provide, and I will go. So that sense of, like you said, that you, in a way, you don't really become empty, but you become less of the old stuff. That's how I felt. But first, let me say this, Tomaz, if anyone is interested in connecting with you and working with you, or I know that you have the meditation series coming out, you do a lot of this kind of work. What is the best way how to contact you and how to get sign up for it, if you can tell everyone?
Thank you for asking that, and I really appreciate it. I have been guided to do this 6 weeks meditation course, which is running as live events, but anybody who joins later, the recordings will be available. And I must say, this is not just a course in how to meditate. This is much more. Let me explain. For anybody who has been on a journey of meditation and feels they need this little extra, they need this little support on deepening their meditation experience, then this is the course that people can basically do. So because I will integrate not just any meditation practice, I will weave in some of the Ayurvedic lifestyle principles that help us deepening our meditation experience. So in the course, I will work with mudras, as you know, the finger positions. I will work with breath. I will work with daily self-practices from an Ayurvedic perspective that help clear the physical body, so we can much easier get in touch and align with our subtler body. So that's the meditation course. I have got a healing series already out there, which is a series of 5 shamanic healing 1-hour sessions, where we go systematically from the grossest, densest physical body to the space or awareness body. And then, of course, people can have one-to-one sessions if they choose to. So I guess you have got the links, so it's probably easy for you to just connect.
So all the links, everyone, if you're interested, are literally just down below. Scroll under the video and you can connect with Tomaz. And I just want to say, because when I was reading the intentions of that work, and what really is important there, what I've noticed is that through this work that you're doing, you're helping people to break free from the old patterns, because I think a lot of people now are on this very brink of, they know like the old is no longer working, but somehow they still feel almost as if something is holding them hostage and they don't really know how to come on the other side. And when I look at that in your description also, I was like, this is so helpful, especially now. It's like this little push in a way. I mean,
Yes, that's correct. And it's basically, my job is just to support people to remember what they already know and help getting the obstacles out of the way. So nothing is new under the sun. Everything has been around for thousands of years. There's no new knowledge. It's just wrapped and packaged in a different way and made available in a different way. And this is what I basically see myself, and what the courses, what my sessions are about. And I want to make something really, to emphasize something. We as healers, we as those who are on the path, we have an obligation to continually striving to become a better version of ourselves. And do we have it all figured out? By far we don't. I don't have it all figured out. And I know my way of being, my way of interaction is constantly changing, and there's nothing wrong with it. So it's about accepting our imperfections on the journey to perfection. Then we realize that we are already perfect and we don't even need to journey. That's the paradox of it.
That's so true, Tomaz. Exactly, so true. But we have to still go through the journey to come to this point, right?
Yes.
It's like Alice in Wonderland.
And that can be a painful process and a time-consuming and frustrating process, because each time we think, oh my God, now we've got it figured out. And then we turn around the corner and then this slaps us back into our face and we are back again. But we're never going to be back where we started. Just every little step is a step closer to remembering the true light being that we are. And I personally have made a choice at this point on my journey not to get entangled into the technicalities of things. 5D world, 6D, is the 7D, what is 12D, how many layers are there? That's wonderful, but I feel it changes constantly, and it's only an interpretation of our own understanding anyway. As we raise, that language will change. So, and I just choose to really take it step by step. What is it that will help me on my journey for moving forward? And that's all. And that's all what we need to do, and the responsibility that we need to take.
This is so beautifully said. I really, really love what you just said, honestly. It's exactly on point. So the last topic that I want to talk with Tomaz today is, last time we were talking about crystals.
Yes.
Tomaz did this whole presentation, but today what I was thinking, we might actually talk about, and Tomaz talks about this on his Instagram account, also the link is down below, are the oils. The essential oils that we would like to have in our possession at home, that help us with certain challenges, emotions, whatever it is. So kind of like aromatherapy, or maybe even more than that. So what are those oils that you would recommend to us to own, and what do they do?
Okay. That's, of course, a vast subject. And first of all, there are three schools of thoughts on aromatherapy. There is the British aromatherapy thinking, there's the French, and there's the Germans. And they are in a constant battle. So everybody thinks their approach is the only one. And I'm just going to share what has crystallized for me. I don't identify myself with the English way of teaching aromatherapy, the French or the German. I just go with what has worked for me. And the first one that I sort of picked out of my little chest of drawers with aromatherapy is this one, which is peppermint. So I have got a few favorites, but of course, peppermint is definitely one of them that people should have in the kitchen for various reasons. Several times in the past, I have had situations where there was one case where a friend of mine had basically, he was type 1 diabetes, and he had some big issues after he had had some food. He basically fainted, and lucky that I had peppermint oil there. I applied a drop of peppermint oil on the soles of the feet, and I asked him to sniff it, which really has helped him to become conscious. And my partner Dan had a couple of episodes where he felt dizzy and really, you know, like when you sometimes feel you break out in sweat and you're going to faint. So peppermint has helped me very much when it comes to feeling ill, feeling sick, people who are suffering from car sickness, for example. Very good oil to have around, just sniff on it if you can too. And then that will help to ease off car sickness, for example.
So Tomaz, so I understand this is like a clear, it clears and it stabilizes.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
So if you think about peppermint has got a very cooling and stimulating effect. So if you're brain fog, for example, you can't concentrate, just sniff a little bit of peppermint oil, or maybe put a little bit of peppermint on the back of your head. And I need to mention here, people who are more sensitive, please check it out first for any irritation on the skin. It's good to dilute it a little bit in a carrier oil, maybe some neutral almond oil or fractionated coconut oil is very good, and then put a few drops in it and then apply it. So it will help increase your circulation, and it brings in clarity. It helps to get back into your conscious being. That's peppermint, excuse me.
Okay.
And also peppermint, now see, there's so much to say. If you feel sick, you have overeaten, for example, and you feel that too much in your stomach, you can put a drop of peppermint oil in water and then drink it. So that
I remember this from my childhood, actually. My grandma's way. That was my grandma's way.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, there's another one, which is ginger. So ginger, again, of course, you can have fresh ginger, but sometimes when you travel, you don't have fresh ginger available easily. So have good quality of ginger, put a little drop in warm water, and you have your ginger water that you can consume and drink. And one thing also I pointed, what sort of came was rosemary.
Okay.
Rosemary is very good for dealing with hair loss, for example, because it has got antifungal properties. So if you apply a little bit of rosemary essential oil in a base oil and then rub that on your scalp, it will help improve the circulation. It will help clear fungus, because a lot of the time when we lose hair, it is often linked to blocked hair follicles, which can be due to fungal residues, and that can be very, very useful. the rosemary.
Thank you, Thomas. This is fascinating. I never heard of this. This is so fascinating. This is great, actually. Okay. And so what else we've got?
Okay, let me just go to, okay, which is some of the, I want to just share some of the more unusual oils. This is copaiba. Basically what this is, it's of a tree. It's the resin of a tree. And if you see how they harvest copaiba, you just Google it or put it into a search engine of your choice. And they drill a hole in the bark, and then they allow the resin to drain off, and they collect the resin, and this is how they make the essential oil or use the essential oil of the copaiba tree. And that's very, very good for pain. So any muscular pains and aches, that can be applied. In fact, you can also use, you can also use ginger for pain, but be careful.
Thomas,
yeah.
Can I ask you with this copaiba? So this is almost like how amber was created, right? So it's like, okay.
It's a resin that comes directly from the tree, and it's only harvested, I think it's, please don't quote me on it, it's only harvested limited number of times during the year, and it doesn't destroy the tree because the tree will heal itself again. So you basically drill and you open it up, and then the oil or the resin comes out, and from that resin they then extract the copaiba essential oil.
This sounds like Brazilian to me. I never heard of this, but it might be from Brazil, right?
I think I watched a video from one of the Canadian trees. So
okay.
I can't quite recollect. So yeah, but copaiba, for example, for pain, you can also put a drop of ginger in it as well, especially if you've got joint problems. But please make sure you dilute it and test it first, especially if you have sensitive skin. This is another one of my favorites, which is cedarwood.
Oh, I love cedarwood smell, Thomas. I'm obsessed with this. Okay, so tell me, I'm so happy. I didn't expect this. I love cedarwood. What is it? What is it?
When I first came across cedarwood, I felt so much, oh my God, no, I don't want to. It smells awful. And this is for the audience to know. If you have an adverse reaction to an oil, if you dislike an oil, it is very likely that that's the oil that you should explore and use. So I did with cedarwood. Basically, cedarwood, I don't know if you know about the tree. Its branch goes high, reaches up in the sky, it's long, tender branch with lots of branches reaching up to the sky, and its roots go very, very deep into the ground. So it's one of those oils that easily connects you to the higher spiritual realms, but at the same time keeps you grounded on earth.
Perfect.
So, and once I've worked through that initial resistance of cedarwood, I actually really started to like it, really love it. It's one of my favorite oils.
I absolutely love the smell, and even in candles, when I find candles with cedarwood, yes. I love those candles, Thomas. Incredible. Yes. So let me ask you this, because I was so blessed to be in Provence many years ago. I went to Provence. So let's talk about, because lavender everywhere, okay? But in that time, it got to the point when I couldn't smell it anymore because it was making me nauseous. Okay. So there are so many benefits of lavender, but can you tell us, the lavender oil, it is one of those basic oils to have, right? And why it's important?
Yes. Okay, let's just rewind a little bit. Why you possibly could have had that reaction is that, and as far as I remember, I think, let me just sort of reconnect to that. France produces a certain amount of lavender within the country, let's say a certain amount of harvested lavender within the country, but what they export is often 6 to 8 times more of the quantity they produce. So basically, they add chemicals to the lavender oil to stretch it and to dilute it, to just basically milk it more and make it more commercial and make more money out of it. So be careful, especially with common oils such as lavender. Really make sure that the quality of oil that you get is good quality. And one of the things to always ask is it cold pressed? Is it treated with low heat and low pressure? Low heat, low pressure is important, because as soon as you start heating the oil more, you get more out of it, but you kill the volatile compounds within the oils. So coming to your question of lavender, sleep, think about improving the quality of sleep, and just for example, putting a drop of lavender oil behind your ears. There's a marma point or energy point behind your ears, on your heart area and on the soles of the feet, can help promote a good quality sleep. I sometimes put a few drops on my pillow, or I have a tissue next to me where I put some oils on the tissue that will help me to sleep. But it's also help with meditation. Besides that, we have got, of course, my favorite still, which is frankincense, which will help.
But wait. No, don't end on lavender yet, because I want to share something with you. And I want to ask you, what do you think of this story?
Yes.
So I used to work in one of those high-end fashion stores that I used to work in my life. So imagine this very fancy environment, right? Like top luxury. And I had this coworker, and she was from Japan, and she was one of the best psychics I ever met in my life. And she always told me, you got this, you know all of it, your time will come. And I remember she could feel, so could I, but she was extra sensitive, the energy of some evil coworkers. So she was telling me, Anya, tomorrow I'm bringing my lavender oil and I'm spraying their lockers.
Yes.
I'm spraying. So she was like cleaning this evil vibes, energy from the coworkers. So I want to ask you, what do you think of this? Is lavender really doing such a thing, protecting?
I must be honest, I haven't used it for that purpose, but lavender is one of those all-round oils. It can always be used and you can never go wrong with it. So I can totally see that this is possible. For me, the other purpose of lavender is, in a way, it's really, especially if you have babies, I found when babies starting to cry and they are inconsolable and you can't really sort of calm them down, they are so susceptible to essential oils. It's just beautiful. Just rub the oil on the soles of the feet, and within minutes, it calms down the babies and it helps them to just settle in. So like I said, lavender is one of those all-around oils. You can't really go wrong. But I personally haven't used it for that. So I'm just honestly sharing that, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't help. My number one go-to oil when it comes to clearing energy is frankincense. It's just really...
Perfect. So let's get into this, because this is the one I really never use. I don't know much about. I think once I smelled it and I was like, yeah.
So if that's the reaction, explore it. I tell you from my own experience, explore it. I must say there are around 50 different varieties of frankincense. Frankincense is another resin, so which means it oozes out of a plant or a tree or a bush. So it's a tree actually. So it oozes out of there, and this is what they use, but there are 50 different species of frankincense, and that's why you can often get the nuances. So some frankincense are different. I found when I did my research a long time ago on essential oils, that the frankincense that you get from Oman seems to be one of the purest frankincense that you can use. And you can also get the resin that you burn on a coal. So get the frankincense hardened resin, and you can burn that. I've got some downstairs. I didn't bring it with me. So you can burn that like sage to really clear. You know, the churches, why did they use it?
Yep.
So to clear the energy so they can.
They know all this stuff. They
Absolutely.
do. They know all this stuff. So Tomaz, well, first of all, let me say, guys, that very often when you follow Tomaz on his Instagram, he actually, lately he was talking about the oils and other remedies for other issues we have sometimes. So check out his Instagram as well, because you can actually hear a lot of this information there. And so much wisdom. I just love connecting with Tomaz because it's like practical, but it's spiritual, it's so multi-layered. And the meditation course, now let's talk about this before we end today. When this starts, the links will be down below. When this will be the first day?
Okay, so we are doing tonight the second session, but it will be a 6 weeks course, and the recordings are on, when you log in, when you sign up to the course, you have access to all the material and the recording. And also I have created, which is such a beautiful environment, a Telegram group for all people who join the Awakening Alchemy meditation course, so they can chat in there and share their experiences. And it's really nice to see the community coming together. And again, don't think that, oh, you can't meditate and this is not something for you. And don't think I'm very much advanced and I can't get anything out of it. Because what I've done is I've really felt guided to combine my Ayurvedic knowledge with mudras, detoxification, self-awareness practices. Because what blocks us from meditation is often, again, those habits, those patterns that we carry, and we can't go beyond the patterns. What can I do from a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual perspective to clear those patterns that then will take us into a deeper experience in the meditation? So it's not like, I don't call it, it's how to awaken your Kundalini energy or how to do astral traveling meditations. That's all wonderful. But I believe we need to solidify, we need to do the groundwork. And wherever we are, then maybe some practice, which could be just a particular breathing practice, can take you exactly to that level that you wish to go without necessarily forcing yourself wanting to experience that. I don't know, does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. And actually, when you were talking, I had this image that pop up, that through many people who might actually join Tomaz meditation, I just said that I felt this, I saw it. It was like they are looking for an answer to a specific question, and somehow that answer cannot break through. And I literally saw like a purifying vessel experience, that something just like with me, it was when I was going through my energy thing, and then it clears up and the answer comes right away and they recognize it.
Exactly. And the tools and techniques, I will also go into self-pulse analysis. So talk about the relevance of pulse in terms of self-awareness, of how that can enhance your meditation and help you to step into a different experience in the meditation. So yeah, so anyway, so we are doing the second session tonight, but all recordings will be available, and we have got the chat group. And thank you so much for sharing that with your audience.
Thank you, Tomaz. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming back. I really like connecting with you. And I know our last chat people truly enjoyed, especially the one with crystals. And next time we connect, we talk about the energy in UK and all of it. But I felt this was important to share what kind of work Tomaz offered me, what he does, and there's so much wisdom. We could talk about the seasonal living and the foods and all of this, but I think it's in stages because this was
Yes.
the most important right now. So thank you so much for offering your help to me and for connecting with me. And whoever is interested in this experience with Tomaz, check out the links are down below. And yeah, I think until next time.
Thank you so much, Anya. Ciao, everyone.